What was one of the craziest Filipino foods that you had on your mission?
For me, the craziest food was the chicken feed.
What was one of the most crazy or dangerous experiences you had?
The craziest and dangerous thing for me was one day whenever me and my companion were going home at night, we got followed for a little bit. And I didn't know what was going to happen, but it was crazy to me.
What was one of the most important spiritual lessons or like life lessons you learned on your mission?
One of the most important things that I learned as a spiritual lesson was just serving where you're called. And understand that the Lord has a reason for putting you in the position that you're getting put in. It's not the mission president deciding, it's the Lord.
What was the greatest skill you gained on your mission?
I think that the greatest skill that I gained was probably relating to people and trying to help them from where they were to where they wanted to be. Like get from there to there.
What was the time when you felt the spirit the strongest?
Just like one time, or?
Yeah, just one of the most spiritual experiences you had.
I think that the biggest one that sticks out of my mind right now is a lesson that I did when I was on splits with somebody else. I was taking a fairly new missionary from a different area to a lesson in one of my areas. And I had a lesson planned, and then the lady that we were supposed to teach wasn't there. It was like sisters, and neither of them was there, but their older sister was, who was also an inactive member. And it was just like while we were saying the prayer, I thought of a different plan in my head to kind of teach this woman who had never met before, didn't know what her needs or anything were. And then I thought to myself, I was like, I don't know what she needs. I got to just go off the Spirit on this one. And I said my own prayer in the middle of the prayer that God would help me to say what I needed to say and teach this woman the right thing. And whenever the prayer was over, it just came out of my mouth. I don't even know what I said. I don't know what happened, but I was full of the Spirit. The companion that was with me said the same thing. And it was probably the best lesson I had, actually, in my entire mission.
What was craziest weather you experienced?
The craziest weather was probably the closest thing to a storm, as far as like the strength and everything of it. Me and my companion were like walking down the mountain to go to our next appointment, and it just started raining super, super heavy. We were getting soaked because neither of us had our umbrellas, and we just ran and hid under this lady's porch, or like the covering that comes over her porch, in this little hut that she had, just living on the side of the mountain. She came out and like gave us chairs because we told her we couldn't go inside. But that's probably like the craziest, just because it was super windy, super like heavily raining and stuff, and it lasted for like a little over an hour probably.
What was one of the hardest experiences that you had on your mission?
The hardest thing, and I'll try to keep this kind of short, but there was one time I was just over a year, or just about a year in my mission. I was a district leader, and I was like the first senior companion to this Filipino he was still learning the language too, because he's from Tagalog speaking area. That's where he grew up. But we were like, had two investigators we were teaching. Both of them were like really good and important, but neither of them, for whatever reason, could understand what I was saying. And walking home one night, the devil just hit me super hard. You're a district leader. You should be a leader in this mission. You should be a leader to your companion. You've been here for a year. You can't talk to these people. You don't speak the language. You can't communicate with them effectively. It's like, what are you doing here? And it was just affecting me really bad, having a super hard time. But then after that, just walking home again, I prayed, and the Spirit came and comforted me greatly. And after that, I didn't have any more problems with it. They didn't perfectly understand me after that, but it was better. And I felt better.
What's one of the best pieces of mission prep advice you could give?
The best mission prep thing that I think that you could do, aside from just being willing to accept things as they're going to be over there, culturally and everything is just make sure that you've done everything you possibly can in your life to invite the Spirit into your life. Don't go out there with any unresolved problems or sins or anything, because you're just going to be hurting yourself at that point in time. And it's not about disappointing anyone else. It's not about disappointing friends or family or anyone. It's about making sure that you've done what you need to do to be the instrument you need to be in the Lord's hands.
What's something you admire most about Filipinos?
I admire the most is just that Filipinos, no matter what situation they have in life, no matter how hard or difficult or even depressing things might be at that time, or look like it is for us, they're still able to smile and laugh and just enjoy life. Because when you really think about it, the quality of life over there, for the most part, is a lot lower than what we are used to. It's a third world country. People have it hard. People lose their stuff all the time. Maybe what few little things that they have a hard time putting food on the table for their family. It's like the normal thing for most of the Philippines. But no matter how hard or difficult it is for them, they're still able to laugh, have a good time, enjoy life, and they're still willing to give. You'll walk into some little shack of some nanay who has what you think is like nothing, and she does have basically nothing, and she'll still feed you until you're full, even if that's all the food that she has.
Awesome. What was one of the funniest language mistakes you made in Cebuano?
This one isn't too funny, but it's the first one that comes to mind. Whenever I was new in the mission, I was teaching a lesson, or starting out the lesson at least, and it was like my third or fourth day in the Philippines, and instead of saying 14, I said 40. I was talking about the sons of Mosiah returning and seeing Alma when they saw him on their way back, and it's like they hadn't seen each other for 40 years. That's a really long time. And she didn't even notice or understand, because she wasn't very familiar with the story, if she had ever heard it before at all. But I just remember walking away and feeling like an idiot, because not only was it a dumb mistake to make, but the numbers were in Spanish, not even Cebuano. So it's like, I've known these numbers basically my whole life. Why would I make that mistake? I'm sure I made tons of other ones that I didn't notice. My trainee was really new in the mission, maybe like a couple of weeks, a month or so tops. And it was the end of P Day, and we went and visited this family. They were giving us dinner that night, and he had just gotten his hair cut earlier that day. So when we got over there, like, the family was like, "Oh, Elder, you look so thin," because his haircut made him look thinner, I guess. And in Cebuano, there are two words that are very close to each other. First is patuli, and the second one is patupi. So, patupi means, like, to get your hair cut. So he walked in, they said he looked super skinny. He said, "Bago ko nagpatuli." And he meant to say, "Oh, I just got my hair cut." But instead he said, "Oh, I just got circumcised." So the entire family, including me, started laughing, because he realized almost immediately after he said it that he made that mistake. But everyone's like, "Elder, I didn't know it worked that way."